Tom wiped the grease off his hands with an old rag as he looked at the clock on the wall. 6:30 in the evening. Time to close up shop and head home to Lily. His 8-year-old daughter would be waiting for him with homework questions and stories about her day at school. The small auto repair shop in Cedar Falls had been his life for the past 5 years. It wasn't much to look at, just 4 repair bays, a tiny office, and shelves full of car parts that had seen better days. But it paid the bills and let him be there for Lily when she needed him. He was pulling down the metal garage door when he heard it, the sound of an expensive engine struggling, then dying completely. Tom turned around to see a massive luxury RV rolling to a stop right in front of his shop. Steam was pouring out from under the hood. Well, that's not good, he muttered to himself. The driver's door opened and out stepped a woman who looked completely out of place in his small town. She was wearing dark sunglasses even though the sun was already setting, and a baseball cap pulled down low over her face. Her clothes looked expensive, the kind you see in magazines but never in real life around here. She stood there for a moment, looking around nervously like she expected someone to jump out from behind a building. Then she spotted Tom and walked over quickly. "Excuse me," she said, her voice shaky. "Are you the mechanic? I really need help. My RV just died and She paused and looked over her shoulder again. "I really need to get this fixed tonight." Tom could hear the desperation in her voice. He'd been in this business long enough to know when someone was genuinely in trouble versus just being dramatic about a minor problem. "I'm Tom," he said, extending his hand. "What seems to be the issue?" The woman hesitated before shaking his hand. "I'm Lisa. The engine just started making this horrible noise about 10 miles back and now it won't start at all." Tom walked over to the RV and popped the hood. Even in the dim light, he could see the problem right away. The transmission was leaking fluid all over the engine block. This wasn't a quick fix. "Bad news," he said, turning back to Lisa. "Your transmission is shot. This is going to take some time to repair. I'm talking at least 8 to 10 hours of work, maybe more." Lisa's face went pale. 8 hours? But I need to leave tonight. I have to keep moving. She caught herself and added quickly, I have somewhere important to be. Tom noticed how she kept looking up and down the street like she was watching for someone. Her hands were shaking slightly as she adjusted her baseball cap. "Look, I understand you're in a hurry," Tom said gently, "but this isn't the kind of repair you want to rush. If I try to patch it up quick, you'll be broken down again in 50 miles, probably somewhere with no help at all." Lisa bit her lip and was quiet for a long moment. How much would it cost to fix it properly? "Parts and labor, probably around $800, maybe a bit more depending on what else I find once I get in there. I'll pay you $1,600 if you can do it tonight," Lisa said without hesitation. "Cash," Tom raised an eyebrow. In his 5 years running this shop, nobody had ever offered to pay double without even trying to negotiate. This woman was either very desperate or very wealthy. Maybe both. "Ma'am, I appreciate the offer, but even if I worked all night, I can't get the parts until morning. The auto parts store closed an hour ago, and they don't open until 8 tomorrow." Lisa's composure finally cracked. She took off her sunglasses and Tom could see fear in her eyes. Real fear, not just frustration about being delayed. "I can't stay here overnight," she whispered. "I don't have anywhere to go and I can't—" She stopped herself again. Tom looked at this strange woman standing in front of his garage. Every instinct told him there was more to her story than she was letting on. But he also saw someone who was genuinely scared and needed help. "Where were you planning to sleep tonight?" he asked. "In the RV, I guess. I've been doing that for the past week." Lisa put her sunglasses back on. "I'll just find a parking lot somewhere." "In that thing?" Tom pointed at the luxury RV. "Lady, that's like parking a neon sign that says rob me. Plus, it's not safe for a woman alone." He made a decision that his practical side immediately questioned. "Look, I've got a guest room at my house. It's not fancy, but it's clean and safe. You can stay there tonight and I'll have your RV fixed by tomorrow afternoon." Lisa stared at him in shock. "You don't even know me. Why would you offer that?" Tom shrugged. "Because you look like someone who needs help and my mama raised me to help people when I can. Besides, my daughter would never forgive me if I let someone sleep in a parking lot when we had an empty room." "You have a daughter?" "Lily, she's 8. Fair warning. She's going to ask you about a million questions. She doesn't meet many new people around here." For the first time since she'd arrived, Lisa almost smiled. "I don't mind questions. All right then. Let me lock up here and we'll head home." My truck's parked around back. We can come get your things from the RV. As they walked to his pickup truck, Tom noticed Lisa still checking the street every few seconds. Whatever had her spooked was serious. He made a mental note to keep an eye out for anything unusual. "So what brings you through Cedar Falls?" he asked as they drove the short distance to his house. "Most people with RVs like yours are heading to the national parks, but you're going the wrong direction for that." "Just traveling," Lisa said vaguely. Seeing the country, Tom didn't push. Everyone had their reasons for keeping things private, and he respected that. But he couldn't shake the feeling that Lisa was running from something rather than traveling to it. They pulled into his driveway, and Tom saw Lily's face appear in the living room window. By the time they reached the front door, she was already there waiting. "Dad, you're late. I was worried something happened at the shop." Then she noticed Lisa, and her eyes went wide. "Who's this?" "Lily, this is Lisa. Her RV broke down and she's going to stay in the guest room tonight while I fix it." Lily looked Lisa up and down with the frank curiosity that only 8-year-olds could manage. "Are you rich? Your clothes look really expensive." "Lily," Tom said, embarrassed. But Lisa laughed, the first genuine laugh he'd heard from her. "It's okay. Yes, I have enough money, but that's not always the most important thing." "Dad always says the most important thing is being kind to people," Lily announced. "That and eating your vegetables, but I think he just made up the vegetable part." This time both Tom and Lisa laughed. Maybe this unexpected situation would work out better than he'd thought. Tom showed Lisa to the guest room, which wasn't much more than a single bed, a small dresser, and a window that looked out to the backyard. "It's not the Ritz, but the sheets are clean," he said apologetically. "It's perfect," Lisa said, and she seemed to mean it. "Thank you, really, I know this is unusual. Don't worry about it. Bathroom's right across the hall. Dinner will be ready in about 30 minutes if you're hungry." Lisa nodded, and Tom headed to the kitchen, where Lily was already setting the table. She'd put out their usual 3 plates, but now she was adding a 4th one with careful concentration. "Dad, what does Lisa like to eat?" Lily asked. "Should I use the fancy napkins?" Tom smiled. The fancy napkins were just the ones without cartoon characters on them. "I think our regular napkins are fine, sweetheart. And I'm making spaghetti, so I hope she likes that." "Everyone likes spaghetti," Lily declared with the confidence of someone who had never met a person who didn't. 20 minutes later, Lisa appeared in the kitchen. She'd taken off her baseball cap and sunglasses, and Tom got his first real look at her. She was prettier than he'd first thought, with dark hair that fell just past her shoulders and intelligent brown eyes. But what struck him most was how tired she looked, like she hadn't slept well in days. "Something smells amazing," she said. "Dad makes the best spaghetti in the whole world," Lily announced. "Well, probably. I haven't tried everyone else's, but his is really good." They sat down to eat, and Tom noticed how Lisa seemed to relax a little more with each passing minute. At first she kept glancing toward the windows, but gradually she started focusing more on the conversation. "So Lily, what grade are you in?" Lisa asked. "3rd grade. My teacher is Mrs. Rodriguez, and she's really nice, except when Billy Peterson pulls my hair. Then she gets mad at him, not me." Lily twirled her spaghetti expertly. "Do you have kids?" Lisa's fork paused halfway to her mouth. "No, I don't. Why not?" "Don't you want them?" "Lily," Tom warned gently. "Remember what we talked about? Some questions are too personal." "It's okay," Lisa said quickly. I always thought I might have children someday. But my life got complicated." "Adults always say that," Lily said matter-of-factly. "But complicated just means you have to think harder about stuff." Lisa laughed, and this time it reached her eyes. "You know what? You're absolutely right." After dinner, Lily disappeared and came back with a stack of her drawings. "Want to see my pictures?" Lisa spent the next hour going through each drawing carefully, asking questions about the stories behind them. There was a picture of a purple horse flying over a rainbow, a drawing of Tom working on a car, and several attempts at drawing their cat. "Whiskers, this one's my favorite," Lily said, pulling out a drawing of 3 stick figures standing in front of a house. "That's me, that's Dad, and that's Mom." Tom felt his chest tighten. Lisa looked at the drawing, then at Tom, understanding immediately. "She's in heaven now," Lily explained to Lisa in the matter-of-fact way children talked about things adults struggled with. "She got sick when I was 6. But Dad says she's still watching over us." "I'm sure she is," Lisa said softly. And I bet she's very proud of both of you. Dad gets sad sometimes, but he tries to hide it, Lily continued. I pretend I don't notice because it makes him feel better. Tom cleared his throat. All right, kiddo. Time for your bath and then bed. Can Lisa read me a story? Lily asked hopefully. Tom looked at Lisa, ready to make an excuse for her, but she smiled. I'd love to. An hour later, Tom found Lisa in Lily's room, reading from a worn copy of Charlotte's Web. Lily was fighting sleep, clearly not wanting this special evening to end. And Charlotte said to Wilbur. Lisa was reading in different voices for each character, and Lily was giggling softly. Tom leaned against the doorframe, watching. It had been 2 years since anyone other than him had read Lily a bedtime story. Lisa seemed natural at it, like she'd done it before, even though she'd said she didn't have children. When Lily finally fell asleep, Lisa carefully closed the book and followed Tom out to the living room. She's wonderful, Lisa said. You're doing an amazing job with her. Some days I feel like I have no idea what I'm doing, Tom admitted. Before my wife died, I was just the fun parent. Now I have to be everything. It shows that you love her. That matters more than being perfect. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Tom stood up. I should get started on your RV. The sooner I begin, the sooner you can get back on the road. I'll come with you, Lisa said. If that's okay. I don't want to just sit here while you work. They walked out to his shop where the RV looked even more massive under the bright garage lights. Tom had already pulled his truck around to tow it into one of the bays. You really don't have to stay, Tom said as he gathered his tools. This is going to take hours and it's not exactly exciting to watch. I don't mind. I like watching people who are good at what they do. Tom started working, explaining what he was doing as he went. Lisa asked intelligent questions that surprised him. Most people's eyes glazed over when he started talking about transmissions and engine components, but she seemed genuinely interested. How did you learn all this? She asked. My dad taught me. He ran this shop before me. Said every man should know how to fix things, whether it's a car or a leaky faucet. Tom smiled at the memory. Of course, he also said every man should know how to cook and do laundry, which turned out to be pretty good advice when I became a single parent. Your father sounds like a wise man. He was. Died about 3 years ago. Heart attack. Tom looked up from the engine. What about your family? They must be worried about you being on the road alone. Lisa was quiet for so long that Tom thought she wasn't going to answer. I don't have much family left. And the people in my life, well, let's just say they're probably not losing sleep over where I am. That's hard to believe. You seem like someone people would worry about. You don't really know me. I know you spent an hour looking at my daughter's drawings like they were hanging in a museum. I know you made her laugh during her bedtime story. And I know you're scared of something, but you still took time to be kind to a little girl you just met. Lisa looked surprised. You notice a lot. Part of the job. When people bring me their cars, they're usually stressed about money or worried about being stranded. You learn to read people. And what do you read about me? Tom stopped working and really looked at her. I think you're used to having money, but not used to having people treat you normally. I think you're running from something, not to something. And I think you're lonelier than you want to admit. Lisa stared at him for a long moment. You're either very perceptive or very lucky with your guesses. Maybe both. Tom went back to work. You don't have to tell me anything you don't want to, but if you need help with whatever's chasing you, I'm here. Why? Lisa asked quietly. You don't know anything about me. I could be dangerous. I could bring trouble to your door. Tom looked up again. Are you dangerous? Not in the way you mean. Then that's good enough for me. They worked together in comfortable silence after that, Lisa handing him tools and holding flashlights when he needed to see into tight spaces. It felt natural, like they'd done this before. Around midnight, Lisa yawned and Tom noticed her eyes drooping. Go get some sleep, he said. I'll work for another couple hours and then pick this up in the morning. Are you sure? I don't mind staying, I'm sure. Besides, Lily will be up early wanting to show you her rock collection or her attempt at making pancakes. You'll need your energy, Lisa smiled. Thank you, Tom, for everything. I haven't felt this normal in a long time. As she walked back to the house, Tom wondered what kind of life she'd been living that a simple dinner and bedtime story felt unusual. Whatever it was, he hoped she'd find what she was looking for. The smell of bacon woke Lisa the next morning. For a moment, she forgot where she was and panicked. Then she heard Lily's voice chattering in the kitchen and remembered she was safe. At least for now. She found Tom at the stove, still wearing yesterday's work clothes, and Lily sitting at the table with what looked like homework spread in front of her. "Did you sleep at all?" Lisa asked Tom. "Couple hours," he said, flipping bacon in the pan. "Got your transmission out. The damage is worse than I thought, but I can fix it. Just need to run to the parts store when they open." "Dad worked all night," Lily announced without looking up from her math worksheet. "I heard him come in at 3 in the morning. "Lily, what have I told you about staying up listening for me?" "That I should sleep and not worry. But I can't help it if I wake up when you come in." She looked at Lisa. "Want to see my rock collection after breakfast? I found a really cool one yesterday that might be a geode." "I'd love to," Lisa said, and meant it. Tom served breakfast and they sat together like a normal family. Lisa couldn't remember the last time she'd had such a simple, peaceful morning. No assistants rushing in with schedules, no board meetings, no urgent phone calls about stock prices or company decisions. "I have to drop Lily at school in a bit," Tom said. "Then I'll get your parts and have you back on the road by this afternoon." Something twisted in Lisa's stomach at the thought of leaving. "There's no rush," she said quickly. "I mean, if you need more time to do it right." After Tom left with Lily, Lisa helped clean up the breakfast dishes. She was drying a plate when she heard a car door slam outside. Through the kitchen window, she saw a black sedan parked across the street. Her blood ran cold. 2 men in dark suits got out and started walking toward the house. Lisa's hands started shaking so badly she nearly dropped the plate. They'd found her. Somehow they'd tracked her down. She looked around frantically, wondering if she could slip out the back door. But then one of the men smiled and waved, and she heard him call out, "Morning, we're with Davidson Insurance. Is Tom Henderson available?" "Insurance salesman." "Just insurance salesman." Lisa leaned against the counter, trying to calm her racing heart. She was becoming paranoid, seeing threats everywhere. When Tom returned from dropping Lily at school, he found Lisa sitting at his kitchen table staring out the window. "You okay?" he asked. "You look pale." "Fine, just tired." She stood up quickly. "Should we go work on the RV?" They spent the morning at the shop. Tom had picked up the parts he needed and was making good progress. Lisa tried to help, but she was distracted, jumping every time a car drove by or someone walked past the garage. "Lisa," Tom said finally, setting down his wrench. "What's going on?" "You've been checking that window every 5 minutes. Nothing. I'm just eager to get back on the road." "Are you in some kind of trouble?" Before Lisa could answer, Lily burst through the door. School had ended and she'd walked straight to the shop like she always did. "Dad." "Lisa?" she called out happily. "Guess what? Mrs. Rodriguez said my story about the space princess was the best in the class." She ran over to show them her paper, but in her excitement she bumped into Lisa's purse, which was sitting on Tom's workbench. The purse tipped over and everything spilled out across the floor. "Oh no," Lily said. "I'm sorry." "It's okay, sweetheart," Lisa said, but she was already scrambling to pick everything up. Tom knelt down to help, gathering scattered items. His hand closed around what felt like a credit card, but when he looked at it, the name read Helen Chen. He picked up another card, Dr. Helen Chen. Then he saw a folded magazine that had fallen face down. When he turned it over, his breath caught. There was Lisa's face on the cover, but the headline read, "Tech Billionaire Helen Chen, Where Is She Now?" Tom stared at the magazine, then at Lisa, or Helen, who had gone completely white. "Dad?" Lily said, looking between them. "What's wrong?" "Lily, honey, can you go wait in the office for a minute?" Tom said quietly. "Lisa and I need to talk." After Lily left, Tom held up the magazine. "Helen Chen, the Helen Chen?" Lisa, Helen, sat down heavily on a nearby stool. "Yes, the woman who invented those new solar panels that everyone's talking about? Who started that company that's worth billions?" "Yes." Tom looked at the magazine again. The smaller headline read, "Mysterious Disappearance Sparks Investor Concerns. The article says you disappeared 3 weeks ago. People are looking for you." Helen laughed bitterly. "People are always looking for me." "That's the problem." "I don't understand." Helen was quiet for a long moment. Then she looked up at him with those tired eyes. 6 months ago, I started getting letters. Love letters, but wrong, obsessive. They knew things about my daily routine, what I ate for breakfast, what I wore to meetings. Tom felt his stomach drop. At first, My security team said it was normal. When you're in the public eye, you get strange fans. But then the letters started mentioning people close to me.
My assistant.
My housekeeper. Details about their lives that nobody should know. Did you call the police? Of course. But this person was careful. No fingerprints, no DNA. The letters came from different cities, mailed weeks apart. The police said there wasn't much they could do unless he actually threatened me directly. Helen stood up and started pacing. Then 3 weeks ago, my assistant found her car tires slashed. There was a note on her windshield that said, "She's in the way." That same day, my housekeeper's daughter didn't come home from school. She was missing for 6 hours before they found her at a park across town. She said a nice man had convinced her to go with him to look for her lost puppy. Tom's hands clenched into fists. Someone took a child. Nothing happened to her, thank God. But the message was clear. Anyone close to me was a target. Helen's voice broke slightly. So I ran. I thought if I disappeared, if I stayed away from everyone in my life, he'd leave them alone. Have you been driving around for 3 weeks? Moving constantly. Never staying in one place more than a night. But I'm tired, Tom. I'm so tired of being afraid. Tom looked at this woman who had everything money could buy but couldn't sleep safely in her own bed. Why didn't you tell me this yesterday? Because I was afraid you'd ask me to leave. And because, she paused, because being here with you and Lily is the first time in months I've felt like a normal person instead of a target. Helen. You can call me Lisa. I've gotten used to it. Tom shook his head. No, your name is Helen, and nobody gets to take that away from you by making you afraid. You don't understand. If this person finds out I was here, you and Lily could be in danger. I've already stayed too long. Let me ask you something, Tom said. In all those months of letters and threats, did this person ever actually hurt you directly? No, but he goes after people around you because that's how he controls you. He keeps you isolated and afraid. Tom stepped closer. But what if you stopped running? I can't, it's too dangerous, not alone. But you're not alone anymore, Helen stared at him. You want to help me? Tom, you have no idea what you're saying. This person is dangerous and obsessed. I can't let you risk Lily's safety. And I can't let you keep running scared for the rest of your life. Tom picked up his cell phone. We're going to call the police. The real police, not just your security team. We're going to figure this out properly. You don't understand. You tried alone. You tried while running and scared and isolated. Tom looked her in the eyes. This time, you've got people who care about you. That changes everything. For the first time since her identity had been revealed, Helen looked like she might actually believe him. 2 hours later, Helen sat in the small police station next to Tom, feeling more exposed than she had in weeks. Detective Rodriguez, a woman in her 40s with kind but sharp eyes, had listened to the whole story without interrupting. Ms. Chen, I have to be honest with you, the detective said. This kind of case is tricky. Your stalker is smart. He's careful not to cross certain legal lines while still making his presence known. So there's nothing you can do? Helen asked, trying to keep the disappointment out of her voice. I didn't say that, but we need to be strategic. Detective Rodriguez opened a file folder. I've been in touch with the FBI agents who worked your case before. They've been tracking similar patterns in other cities along your route. Tom leaned forward. What kind of patterns? Hotels where Ms. Chen stayed have had break-ins the day after she left. Nothing stolen, but security cameras were disabled. Gas stations where she stopped received calls asking about a woman matching her description. Someone's been following her trail. Helen felt the familiar cold fear settling in her stomach. How close is he? That's what worries me. The last incident was 2 days ago, about 60 miles from here. The detective looked at both of them seriously. I think he knows the general area where you are. Then Helen needs to leave, Tom said immediately. Tonight. No, Detective Rodriguez said firmly. Running hasn't worked. It's only made things worse. This person feeds on the chase, on making Miss Chen feel helpless. We need to change the game. What do you mean? Helen asked. We set a trap. But I need to know. Are you willing to trust us? Really trust us? Helen looked at Tom, who nodded encouragingly. What would I need to do? Stop hiding. Tomorrow morning, you're going to be seen around town. Make yourself visible. Go to the diner, visit the library, be normal. Meanwhile, we'll have unmarked cars watching and FBI agents positioned around town. You want to use her as bait? Tom said, his voice tight with anger. I want to end this, the detective replied. Ms. Chen has been running for weeks. How long can she keep that up? Eventually she'll make a mistake or he'll get lucky. This way we control the situation. Helen was quiet for a long moment. If I do this and something goes wrong, nothing will go wrong, Tom said firmly. I'll be with you every step of the way. Tom, you have Lily to think about. I've already called my sister. She's picking up Lily after school tomorrow and taking her to her house for the weekend. She does that sometimes anyway, so it won't seem unusual. Detective Rodriguez nodded approvingly. Good. The fewer civilians around, the better. That evening, back at Tom's house, Helen watched Lily pack her overnight bag for her aunt's house. The little girl was excited about the sleepover and had no idea what was really happening. Will you still be here when I get back on Sunday? Lily asked Helen. Helen's throat tightened. I don't know, sweetheart. I might have to leave soon. But you just got here, and we were going to look for geodes in the creek. Maybe we can do that another time. Lily studied her with those perceptive 8-year-old eyes. Are you sad about something? Helen sat down on the bed next to her. Sometimes adults have problems that are hard to fix, but your dad is helping me figure things out. Dad's really good at fixing things. He fixed my bike when the chain broke, and he fixed Mrs. Patterson's fence after the storm. And he even fixed Whiskers when he got sick. Your dad is a very special person. I know. Mom always said he had the biggest heart in the world. Lily zipped up her bag. I think you're sad because you don't have a family like us. Helen blinked back sudden tears. What makes you say that? Because you look at us the way I look at other kids when they have something I want but can't have. But maybe you could stay and be part of our family. Dad gets lonely too, even though he tries to hide it. Before Helen could respond, Tom appeared in the doorway. Ready to go, kiddo? Aunt Rachel is waiting. After they dropped Lily off, Tom and Helen drove back through town. Helen noticed how Tom kept checking his mirrors and took a longer route home. Nervous? She asked. Terrified, he admitted. But this has to end, Helen. You can't keep living like this. That night, Helen barely slept. Every sound outside made her jump. A cat knocking over a trash can, wind rattling the windows, a car driving by too slowly. Tom had given her his cell phone number and told her to call if she heard anything suspicious. Around 3 a.m, she finally gave up trying to sleep and went to the kitchen for some water. Through the window, she saw Tom's silhouette in the garage. He was working on her RV again, even though it was already fixed. She pulled on a jacket and walked out to join him. Couldn't sleep either? She asked. Figured I might as well do something useful. He looked up from the engine. I've been thinking about what you said, about bringing danger to people you care about. Tom, let me finish. 3 years ago, when my wife was dying, I thought about running away, just taking Lily and disappearing somewhere where cancer couldn't find us. He set down his wrench. But running away from problems doesn't solve them. It just makes you tired. This is different. Your wife's illness wasn't hunting you. No, but fear was. Fear of losing her. Fear of being alone. Fear of not being enough for Lily. Tom walked over to her. The thing is, you can't live a real life when you're controlled by fear. Easy to say when you're not the one being stalked. You're right. I don't know what that feels like. But I know what it feels like to be so afraid of losing something that you stop actually living. He touched her arm gently. Helen, in the past 2 days I've watched you come alive. With Lily over dinner, even just talking in this garage. Don't let this person take that away from you. Helen felt tears starting. I'm scared, Tom, not just for me. I care about you and Lily now, and that makes everything more dangerous. Or it makes you stronger. You're not alone anymore. They stood there in the quiet garage, and for a moment Helen allowed herself to imagine what it would be like to stay, to be part of this small family, to help Lily with homework and read her bedtime stories and wake up to the smell of Tom's coffee every morning. If we do this tomorrow, she said quietly, and something happens to you. Nothing's going to happen to me or to you. We're going to end this, and then you're going to have to decide what kind of life you want to build. What do you mean? Tom smiled. I mean, after tomorrow you'll be free to go anywhere and do anything. The question is, what do you want? For the first time in months, Helen thought she might actually know the answer. The next morning felt like the longest day of Helen's life. Following Detective Rodriguez's plan, she and Tom walked through town like a normal couple running errands. They went to the hardware store, the diner for lunch, and the small grocery store. Helen forced herself to smile and make small talk with the cashiers. all while knowing that unmarked police cars were positioned around town. "You're doing great," Tom whispered as they left the grocery store. Just a few more stops. They were walking toward the library when Tom's phone buzzed. He checked it quickly and his face went pale. "What is it?" Helen asked. "Detective Rodriguez. She says to go to the library and stay there until she calls again. They think they've spotted him." Inside the library, Helen tried to focus on a book while Tom pretended to read a magazine. Her hands were shaking so badly she couldn't turn the pages. Through the window, she could see an old blue pickup truck parked across the street. The driver was just sitting there, watching the library. "Tom," she whispered. "That truck." Tom looked where she was pointing. "I see it. Stay calm." 20 minutes passed. The truck didn't move. Helen was starting to wonder if they'd made a terrible mistake when Detective Rodriguez finally called. "We've got him," she said. "Robert Chen, no relation to you, just a coincidence with the name. He's been following you for over a month. We found maps in his truck with your route marked out, photos of you at different locations and—" She paused. "Letters he was planning to deliver. You don't need to worry about him anymore." Helen sank into her chair, feeling like she might cry with relief. "Is it really over?" "It's over. He's in custody and he'll be charged with stalking, harassment, and several other crimes across multiple states. You're safe, Ms. Chen." After they left the library, Helen and Tom sat in his truck in the parking lot. Helen was quiet for a long time, just staring out the window. "I can't believe it's actually finished," she said finally. "How does it feel?" "Strange. I've been running for so long I forgot what it was like to think about the future instead of just the next hour." She turned to look at him. "Tom, I need to tell you something." "What?" "Last night when you asked me what I wanted, I think I know. But it's complicated," Tom smiled. "You're talking to a guy who raises an 8-year-old by himself and runs a business with a broken air conditioner and a coffee maker that only works on Tuesdays." "I can handle complicated," Helen laughed despite her nerves. "I want to stay. Here in Cedar Falls with you and Lily if you'll have me." "Helen, I know it sounds crazy. We've known each other for 3 days. But I've never felt as much like myself as I have in your kitchen, reading bedtime stories to Lily and talking to you in your garage." She took a deep breath. "I'm tired of my old life. I want something real." Tom reached over and took her hand. "Are you sure? Because once Lily gets attached to you, really attached, there's no going back. She's already planning to show you every rock in Cedar County. I'm sure. But there are things we need to figure out. My company, my responsibilities. I can't just disappear forever. So don't disappear. Be yourself, but be yourself here." Over the next few hours, they picked up Lily from her aunt's house and drove home together. Lily was full of stories about her sleepover and wanted to know everything about their boring grown-up errands. That evening, while Lily was taking a bath, Helen made a phone call to her assistant back in California. "Catherine, it's me. Yes, I'm fine. I know you've been worried." Helen paced around Tom's small living room while she talked. "I need you to set up some meetings for next week." "No, not in California. I'm staying in a town called Cedar Falls." She spent an hour on the phone making arrangements to work remotely and setting up her computer in Tom's spare room. Tom listened with amazement as she talked about moving operations, establishing a regional office, and investing in local infrastructure. "You're really serious about this," he said after she hung up. "I've never been more serious about anything in my life." 3 months later, Helen was standing in Tom's garage, which was now their garage, watching him work on Mrs. Patterson's car. She'd kept her promise to help expand the business, and they now had 2 additional mechanics and a waiting list of customers. "Dad!" "Helen!" Lily called from the office. "The reporter from the newspaper is here." Helen groaned. "I forgot about the interview." The local newspaper wanted to do a story about the mysterious tech billionaire who decided to make Cedar Falls her home. Helen had finally agreed, mainly because the reporter promised to focus on the new jobs and community projects rather than her personal life. "You'll be fine," Tom said, wiping his hands on a rag. "Just remember to mention how handsome and talented your boyfriend is." "Boyfriend?" Helen raised an eyebrow. "Is that what we're calling it?" Tom grinned and walked over to her. "I was thinking more along the lines of fiancé, actually." Helen's heart stopped. "Tom Henderson, are you— Helen Chen, will you marry me?" He pulled a small ring box from his pocket. "It's not fancy, and I know you could buy yourself better jewelry than I'll ever afford, but—" Helen threw her arms around his neck before he could finish. Yes, of course, yes. Really? Really, but we're doing this properly. I want a small ceremony right here in town, with everyone we care about. 6 months later, Helen walked down the aisle of Cedar Falls Community Church, wearing a simple white dress and carrying flowers from their own garden. Lily, her new stepdaughter, was the flower girl and took her job very seriously, making sure every petal was perfectly placed. As Tom took her hands at the altar, Helen looked out at the small crowd of friends and neighbors who had become her family. Detective Rodriguez was there, along with Tom's sister and her family. Mrs. Patterson sat in the front row next to Helen's assistant Catherine, who had flown in from California. You know, Tom whispered as the minister began the ceremony. A year ago, if someone had told me I'd be marrying a billionaire, I'd have said they were crazy. If someone had told me I'd find my home in a small-town auto repair shop, I'd have said the same thing, Helen whispered back. After the ceremony, they had the reception right there in the church hall. Helen's company had catered it, but Lily had insisted on making the cake herself, with lots of help from her new grandmother, Tom's mother, who had driven in from Phoenix. As the evening wound down and they said goodbye to their guests, Helen found herself standing in the parking lot with Tom and Lily, looking up at the stars. "So what now?" Tom asked. "Now we go home," Helen said. "And tomorrow morning you fix cars, I run board meetings from our kitchen table, and Lily shows us whatever new rocks she found." "Sounds perfect," Lily said, taking both their hands. And for the first time in her adult life, Helen Chen, now Helen Henderson, knew exactly where she belonged.